Hello everyone, welcome here to Phuket. And I can tell you the monsoon started. That is something else, man. I just took a few videos, which I might play here at the end of this video just to show you what the monsoon really looks like. Basically, if you imagine I suppose the worst thunderstorm you've ever seen in your life and multiply it by 3, man, that's when you get to a monsoon year. It is for a couple of months. It will test your roofs to the limit. That's why we have a new roof on. There's a video coming out on that on the other channel, the building channel. I'll leave the links here below, but it's when we got the place, it was closed, locked down for 4 or 5 years already, and of course with the mold and the rain and leakages, everything was ruined. Everything. So we had to basically rebuild it completely, replace everything. It's an interesting journey. If you guys are interested in that type of thing, then go look at the channel and, and join in the fun, I suppose. There were good days, there were bad days, there were tearful days. But right now we're at the stage where it's actually basically sorted out. Everything has been redone. It's a matter of opening the vegan cafes below on the first floor, ground floor, I mean, and then opening the rooms for business, for people to come and enjoy Patong Beach and the nightlife and whatever else is here. Lots of beaches, wonderful people. Or we might just sell the place and move off somewhere else, probably Vietnam, wherever. We'll see. We'll see how life goes. Also, this studio, it used to be a very small, silly bedroom. So Rebecca was a very generous person, She went and said, why don't you use it as a studio? And so we are using it as a studio. It's for the Legacy Conversation channel. If somebody is actually coming to visit, then you would be sitting that side, I'll be sitting this side. Thus far, we only had one person doing that, my friend Elsa, who's the best shot you've ever seen in your life. Yes, he was at one stage the best in the world in her class. Fantastically good shot. She once shot bullseyes at 997 meters. Yeah, that was without a telescope, if I remember correctly. It was actually open sights. Yeah, it's kind of funny because the rifle is almost longer than her, but she started shooting at the age of 4. And yes, she is in the books. I'm not revealing her code name there. But those of you who read many of the GMJ books will know there is a sniper there who fits her description. Let me put it like that. Starts with an L. Anyway, today I want to speak to you about my latest book. It is called Codename Snake 606. Now, we come up with these code names because we normally honor somebody, or we sometimes have fun with each other. In the beginning, until I met Rebecca, the first, I would say, 44 books were basically all the names there. Most of them had to do with my late wife, Melissa. That's why you will find a book called Codename Elise. You will find Codename Dawson, which also refers to her, Castleberry. A lot of them, I all refer back to her. But sometimes we do refer to other people. Most obviously would be Codename Rebecca 65, obviously. Then Swan 53. All of those books refers to Rebecca. It does not refer to my late wife, obviously so. Just yesterday was the 11th year since she passed, and I myself was in hospital. It's probably 2-3 months ago since once you see her. So I'm okay. I'm okay. Praise the Lord. I hope things just went very wrong, and I had to go to hospital, and they kept me there and pumped me full of salt water, basically. Sodium chloride, one of these drips, just stabilized my blood levels, everything. So it's good. All is good now. Praise the Lord. But we are getting older, which is probably one of the reasons why if you have a story to tell or to write, then you should do it. Don't waste time, just do it. So we got to this code name, the name of a book, Snake 606, simply because it was written in 2025, which is the year of a snake, or the Chinese. And 606 refers to Rebecca. It refers to something and someone. It's not that important. I don't need to explain it that much. It's between Rebecca and myself where that comes from. Got nothing to do with 666 or the number of Antichrist in Rome. Which, shall I start off with Oath of Evil again? Yeah, if you read that book, you will find a complete description on why 666 refers to the papacy. Not really a man in particular, but the office of the papacy. It's undeniable. There's no way you can deny it. Of course, they try. But we know, and the Bible warned us, and so it is. So anyway, snake also refers to the year of a snake of the Chinese. Now, I would say in today's time, the second beast of the Bible, that's the US of A, that country really has a problem with China. And they're heading for a war with China, and they will definitely lose that war. So I hope it never happens. I've been warning about that for so long. Just a week ago, there was a little bit of a clash between India and Pakistan. And I understand one of the biggest dogfights since the Second World War, probably from the First World War actually, took place as 125 aircraft were involved. They were all using long-range missiles, probably over the horizon, since they didn't actually cross into each other's airspace. But they were definitely approaching as far as we know, as I speak here today. They were approaching and then they would launch and then they would turn away, of course. And it seems that the Pakistan Air Force downed 3 or 4 of the Indian Air Force aircraft, including a Rafale, which is a French-made aircraft. Now that is fascinating because if you read Codename Blue Tang, the fighter pilot book, then you will not only learn about John Boyd and his theories and so forth, you'll also find out where the F-16 comes from and where the F-18 actually comes from, and how they had to fight to get these aircraft into service, because at that stage the Navy and the Air Force all wanted swept wing, variable wing type of aircraft like the F-14, which is a stupid concept and it doesn't work, and it's not a good fighter anyway. My late wife said to me, it's not a good fighter. It does not have an engine power to form real maneuvers. This is not Top Gun. It's actually real life. But fascinatingly, Rafale was the only aircraft which actually won dogfights in the 1990s. What happened is East Germany and West Germany combined. They got rid of all the colonels and higher of the East German armed forces. And then they inherited, of course, the East German Air Force, which is a major Warsaw Pact Air Force. They had all the latest aircraft, latest missiles, and then they had to find out that the air-to-air missiles from the Russian Soviet side were 8 times better. Yeah, 8 times, not 8%, 8 times. And then they had to find out also that the Sukhois and the MiGs were actually better airframes, or at least equal to the F-15 and whatever else the Americans and the West could produce. It was utterly shocking, because every time these Soviet aircraft went up and mock dogfights, they shot the Western ones down. Only the Rafale actually survived, and that was just by the skin of their teeth. So basically what it comes down to is the West never had air superiority in the 1980s, from about 85 onwards in Western Europe. Oh yeah. They kept that secret, of course, but I've got all the evidence. Comes out in that book. And also, just a year or two ago, a MiG-21 of the Indian Air Force shot down Pakistan F-16 with a Beyond Visual Range missile, which I think is also in Blue Tank, which we speak about that, because I update the books now and then. But it seems what happened here is that Chinese got an aircraft. It looks something like a Mirage. I would say like a Mirage 3. But it's not. It's brand new, the J10 or something we call it. And it's a very good dogfighter. And it's got excellent electronics and aviation type of instruments and things inside it. It's very, very good. And they combined that with very, very good missiles. And that's why the Indian Air Force saw their asses. And it came as a very rude awakening to the West. Well, I've been warning you, man. I've been warning you. When I wrote Codename Unbutton, where Lucy plays a major role, that sniper of Angelique. If people who read the books will know what I'm talking about. Yeah, she plays a major role because she wants, any of you served in any military, you will know that there is no such thing as an unbuttoned shirt or a lapel, what do you call it, envelope with these things here on top. What's that in English? Epaulets. There's no such thing of that thing hanging loose and flapping like a war on the Kotze Street in Johannesburg. There's my old sergeant. This is dark soul, as he said to me once at the top of his voice. And even with your kit, when you have your kit on, there's no loose straps hanging around, things like that. There's very good military reasons for that. Besides, it's stuck our ways of doing things, or what do you call it, long-hair liberals. We don't do things like that. So whenever I see a jacket and it's hanging loose and it's flapping around, it will work on me. It will really work on me until I say something. It's the same with these people these days, the tattooed brigade, with their little stupid caps, and it's like backside down, and they sit there eating with their caps on. And I start looking around, where's the sergeant, because God will not help them, or me, for not doing anything, if I find them eating with their caps on. So yeah, I do realize we're a different generation. But anyway, there's a book called Codename Unbutton, which is a very, very fascinating book, because we deal there with Chinese military intelligence, which is based upon the old GRU, and I dedicate quite a bit of pages there to describe how they work, how their special forces work, and I also mentioned this new aircraft of them and their missiles. So the warning was out in the GMJ books long before the West woke up. Now we're scrambling, and let me tell you, there's nothing you can do. Nothing. The only way, if you want the very best, in fact, which the Chinese based their missiles upon, the very best air-to-air missile is made by Denel. It's a South African company. Sort of functioning anymore, not really, but they have a know-how anyway. That's called Agile Darter V3E. There's more modern versions out now, and that's why it's incredible. You can fire that thing forward, and it will turn around. That was what I was told. Come back over you and shoot the guy chasing your 6. Shoot him down from the front. Now, you have to listen to what people like Cobus Turin says in an upcoming episode where he speaks, well, I think it's been out already, where he speaks about the dogfight and how they were limited in Angola, where they have to be on the guy 6. They could only launch from behind. Now, with the Agile Darter, you don't need to do that anymore. And there's very strong rumors, it comes out in Blue Tang again, that a dogfight like that, a training one, did take place between the Gripens, South African Gripens, and Hornets, F-18 Hornets, not Super Hornet, just a Hornet, of the Spanish Air Force. Well, did it happen or not? I was told it was. It is in the books, and you can go and read yourself if interested. But the point why I'm linking it to this book, Snake 606, is simply because in both books you find the Chinese intelligence operatives working with, our heroes, Angelique and mates, which happens often in South Africa intelligence services anyway, because, as I say again, South Africa is actually a BRICS country. It's not a NATO country. Wake up to that fact. And you have to respect that too, because they are actually on the winning side here, as far as I can see. I don't see NATO being able to win. I just don't. unless they make major improvements, and they ain't got the guts to do it. They live in a dream world, total dream world. And yeah, so anyway, people don't know much about the Chinese. They actually look at them with contempt. They will say something, yeah, we're not very warrior-like. They don't really want to fight. It's not to say they cannot fight. Let me tell you, they lost 12 million people in the Second World War. They lost probably almost 1 million in Korea. They are willing to fight if they have to fight, but they don't look for trouble. In other words, it's the same as those Freemasons, the US forefathers, the founding fathers, which they were saying in the beginning that the US is not a country we go out and look for trouble. And for a long, long time, they were not like that. And then suddenly they started changing. And of course, we know where they are today. Again, read Oath of Evil, because that's where you will find a lot of the answers. And at least it will give you a platform to research further. So we have to look at the US from that angle. Most of the analysts, and I follow a lot of them, and I have great respect for them, they just don't have that angle. They just don't see that. They look at the tactical things, they don't understand what's happening. They can't understand why is the White House acting like it is, because it makes no sense. And then they can't figure it out. Well, you won't, unless you're able to look from a higher viewpoint, strategic viewpoint, and you know the Bible, you will not understand what's happening. But luckily, we do, or we think we do anyway. Somebody told me the other day. That's also good. But we do discuss Chinese intelligence, also the special forces, which are excellent. And it also comes out in Snake 606, is that, there's a lot of special forces operations going on, but there's also a lot of tournaments. That is where they compete against each other. And it's an open debate, of course, how serious you take this thing, because at the end of the day, there's a huge difference between a tournament and being operational somewhere. It's not the same. But at the same time, it's a good thing to get them on it together, and perhaps you can recruit each other to your views. You can observe them at least. You can see a lot. If you're a military man and you're listening to me, you know exactly what I'm telling you now. You look at a military man, especially special forces or elite units, you immediately see this guy physically fit. Does he look like he's loyal to his country? Does he look like he's got patriotism? Does he have that fire? Will he fight? When you look at his equipment and you look at how he handles himself under pressure, there's really a lot of things you can learn by observing these people. Now, the funny thing about Chinese special forces is that they are much higher qualified, actually, than most of the Western ones. And I always put the Western side, this side, and Chinese, Russia, whatever, BRICS on that side, because they're enemies. You have to look at the one to see the other. So while it's true that China doesn't go out and make trouble and cause trouble and invade countries and things like that, when they act decisively. So they invaded Vietnam at one stage in the late 70s. I think they went in for 2 weeks. They did what they had to do and they moved back. And immediately the West were, look at the Chinese, shame. Yeah, well, not shame. You were idiots who stayed in Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, where else? Across the world, 80 years now in Europe, Western Europe. And in many of these places, you had to run away in disgrace because you were kicked out, you were chased out. And the Chinese are not stupid. They're smarter than you, actually. And artificial intelligence is so much better than you. That is why you've seen the story with Pakistan, India now. They have a capacity and ability to use their artificial intelligence to work out scenarios, to build weapons without physically building them. Then they perfect these things. Look at Codename Lucy, where I describe how they built up their navy. They would take a certain anti-aircraft close-in weapon system, the CIWS, the phalanx, which I think the US used for their 20mm of shame. And then they would increase the caliber. I think the Chinese standard one has got 12 barrels, 50mm, It has got almost twice the range of a 20 millimeter. It is so much more accurate that you cannot even begin to believe. It will destroy these incoming missiles quite further away from what you can do. And besides that, you have no answer to hypersonic missiles. You just don't. You're sitting ducks, man. That's all you are. Until we find a solution to this. And I believe the Russians already have a solution. And if they have it, I assure you China is not far behind. But that's where artificial intelligence comes in, and also command and control of battlefields, which Pakistanis were way ahead of the Indians. Now, Pakistan, I think at some stage are going to join BRICS. It would be fantastic because India, though it's a major country, is still not really knowing where it stands. And it's extremely stupid because the West actually wants India to take on China. And that will be the end of India. Because you're not going to take on China. They're bigger than you. They've got the strongest economy. They've got fantastic weapon systems. We've seen it here, and it's described in both of these books. Snake, which also work with Chinese intelligence, as well as Unbutton. Now, Unbutton also, just for those who want to know, I'll make a video about it. It's about these robot ships, which the US Navy wants and put everywhere. And yeah, then it came out actually that the Chinese has broken their codes and it's able to control that thing. We can take it over. That's why I wrote the book, is to warn. But sadly, of course, we don't believe that. Never happened. Yeah, you should read the book, man. It did happen. But anyway, so in Snake 606, there's a combined operation going on between Angelique and Chinese military intelligence. What happened in the background is there was a ship in the Congo River, one of these, from the Cold War, which they just left there moored until it sank in the river. This actually happened by itself. And then there was missiles on board this little missile boat. And so she wants to recover the missiles for some reason. So I don't want to tell you why, because I give a story away. But I will tell you this. The book came from Legacy Conversations, actually. Now, you don't know what Legacy Conversations, that is the main channel. That's the one where we speak to military veterans in mostly South Africa and Rhodesia. Police, intelligence as well. We hear their life stories. We hear specific operations. It's fantastic. It's really nice. And lately we also started doing equipment. So we'll have an ace pilot standing next to an aircraft and explaining how we used this aircraft during the wartime. And, it's just fascinating to see these things. It's really good. It's one of those things which we've been going for 4 years now. In a week or two from now, or 2 months ago, when you see here on 21 May. So we 4 million views and almost 1 million hours of watch. People watching, we're really grateful. But someone there, one of the Special Forces officers, I won't mention names. I'm not sure if it's still in the video or I cut it out. He was talking about the time when they were actually in the Congo and they found out there's a missile boat which sank. And then they wanted to dive down to recover the missiles. One of these things which Special Forces do in the background. And then he just suddenly kept quiet and didn't speak about it anymore. And I just smiled. And then about 2-3 years later, I'm in Cape Town and I walk into a certain admiral's place and he shows me against his wall is a steering wheel which actually comes from a missile boat which was sank in the Congo. Yeah. And unbeknown to the two of them, I remember Angelique, the real Angelique, one day becoming more obnoxious than normal, like very angry. And I'm like, what's going on? Are you all right? And of course she's all right. I mean, she causes anger. She doesn't anyway. So she explained that Special Forces tried to steal something from her. And after a long while, it came out that Special Forces wanted to dive on a missile boat. It sank in the Congo River, and she felt that's her organization's, her service's job to do that. not theirs, and she's anyway more capable of smuggling these things out. And that's what she's so angry about, and blah, blah, blah. And I stopped listening because, when she's in that mood, you just stand at least 8 feet away and you just say, no, yeah, no, it's good. Angelique, it's fine. Don't worry about it, because she might explode. But anyway, so the first half of the book is about that incident. And what I found out later, what actually happened, which is not to say it's the truth and the honest truth, and so help me God, as you guys know, we have to, to change the story a little bit so that people can be protected. But it does describe how you will do such an operation, how you will get there, who will help you, not names now, but the way it works, with your sub-agents who will support you with, say, diving tourist and diving equipment. And then how you will dive down, how you will recover it, then how do you get it out of the country, blah, blah, blah. But the Chinese are also involved in this operation, because the Chinese actually have very extensive spy networks in Africa. Yeah, it's a funny thing, when you go virtually to any country in Africa, to any small town, big town, doesn't matter, you will always find Chinese traders around. And some of these lads and lasses, because they're from both sides, they're female and male, are very, very fit people. Man, they look like they're really muscled, They remind me of those tournaments we saw, special forces, where actually the Chinese wins everything. And when they don't win everything, the next year they come back, they practice that to such an art where Western can never get to. And so they win that too. So let's say they came third or second in the sniping competition at 900 yards. I'm bloody well ensure you next year they're going to win it. They're going to win it. And each of them has probably done 3,000 parachute jumps. They would have thousands of hours underwater. It is just incredible the amount of training and practicing they actually put into their units. It's just amazing. I mean, the Air Force fighter pilots in the elite squadrons fly about 200 hours a month. That is more than a year of flight time for the US Navy aviators and the US Air Force. And NATO doesn't even come close. But when you start flying like that, your entire Air Force goes up, because your mechanics and your engineers and all those people have to be on their toes now, because those aircraft are being used. They've been used and they're being improved. And the manufacturers are standing there and saying, okay, what's wrong? Okay, we need this. Okay, right, we're getting this for you. So that's the one part. And then the second part is something which actually did happen. Don't ask me too much details. Read the book, but disguised, of course. But yes, there was an outbreak of some kind of illness in the Congo, and people were sent in. 2 teams were sent in to actually go and see what's going on. This is now before the time of a Groot Snotziekte, of a great illness where everybody was locked up like animals without reason, and they had to keep 6 feet away from each other without reason, wear a stupid mask without reason. It's just amazing. It's amazing how quickly people forget on all the insults and the idiocy which was going on in those years. It's amazing. So in this book, we actually speak about that, looking back a bit. But the actual operation took place long before that happened. And so it was a bit hard for me to write, what happened then and what happened later. But I do think I succeeded in a way. Anyway, 2 teams went in, they never got out again. Suddenly they lost communications. Their satellite communications went off, their cell phone communications went off, their radio communications went off, and they couldn't get out. So something bad happened there. And this is what the book is about. Not so much about the illness which break out, because the Congo, there'll be an illness there breaking out every 5 minutes. It's sort of a place where people are experimented on by the Western companies, the pharmaceutical ones, which is from the devil. Actually, if you look at what the word pharma means, You will find out it's like black magic. Not saying they cannot do good. They do very well, very good. As in fact, I found that out yesterday when I was in hospital. There are certain medications which works very well, but they also have a damn tendency to test their vaccines on Africans. Yes, I mentioned all of those in the books. I mentioned them by name, incident, and of course, as I say to you, if you want to um, text what I write or say, man, please go ahead. By all means, you're going to find out that if I describe an incident to you and it's a historical thing, it's damn well did happen like that. It's just that people don't know or they forgot about it because as humans, thank God, we actually tend to focus on the good and not the bad. Oh, I'm not sure if you can hear the rain falling outside, but it's pouring down. It sounds like a toilet flushing. That's how hard it's raining. There comes the thunder as well. Oh, it's fantastic for monsoon, and I love a monsoon. But the swimming pool will fill up with an inch or two of water, and I'll have to go and pump that out the moment I'm done with you. So let's carry on. So these teams have to be found, and I was actually involved in that. We had to go and find these teams, and I also describe in this book in Snake 606 Versailles, not the Versailles in France, but the Versailles of Mobutu Sese Seko. Oh, what a wonderful African dictator, shame. Got all these honors, isn't it funny? All these African dictators, they are human rights abusers, they steal, they commit rape, there's nothing they don't do. And the West just loves them. I mean, look at Robert Mugabe, who's known in my books as a baboon Mugabe because he looks like one. It's actually an insult to the baboons, but I apologize for that. He was a Jesuit, by the way. It's the late Pope actually bowed down to him. Yeah. We've got pictures of that. Research a bit. And that was because he was a higher ranking Jesuit, or as a Jesuit actually before the Pope became a Jesuit. Couldn't be higher ranking because, those Francis village idiots, I call him, was also the Black Pope and the White Pope. Then came a new Black Pope, who I also mentioned by name. And this Seko, Mobutu, yeah, guess what? He went to Jesuit schools as a youth. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Did the communists not say to you, give me your child, I'll make him a communist? Did they not say that? Now think about this, guys. It's also in Oath of Evil and other books. Who do you think controls the school curriculum? Perhaps we follow the United Nations one, Okay, so if it's like that, tell me, the guy in charge of a United Nations school program who started all of it, was he perhaps a Jesuit? Yeah, he was a Jesuit. Yeah, he was a Jesuit. I think it was called Ratzinger or something, but I might be wrong. It's in the books. So many, millions and millions of words. But you find these things out and suddenly you understand. You understand the TikTok generation. You have to feel sorry for them. Actually, you have to feel sorry for yourself too, because as I say to you, you might not be interested in war, as Trotsky said, but war is interested in you. And there is a war going on between good and evil. We know that. The Bible says it. It's also in my books. And so, with Chinese intelligence, the teams going to the Congo. It is close to Versailles. That is where the palace was of this Mobutu. There's an airport next to it. There's a runway there which can take the Concorde. Apparently, the Concorde did fly in to bring chefs and things to bake cakes for Mobutu and his 500-600 guests he has there all the time. It's incredible. They had a nuclear-proof bunker for 300 people. Why? I don't know. And then you look at the people, it's in the book we actually visited. Yes, you'll find the Antichrist there as well. The Pope, he went there. I think it's John Paul. One of them went there. The President of France. I mentioned all of them. Incredible who actually went and became his visitors. So yeah, you can buy these people. They're just at the end of the day. If you have enough money, you can buy. So yeah, this Mobutu Sese Seko went from a sergeant in the Congolese army overnight to a lieutenant colonel, and the next day he's a president for life. Yeah, you know. And he's also a fellow who had the first president who was a communist, had he murdered, much to the disgust of the liberals. But you know what? So it is, whatever. It really links up also with a book called Codename Dawn, because we do talk about the state of Katanga. Dawn you have to read, because that is where the UN has changed. Up to when, before the death of Dag Hammarskjöld, the UN was fairly neutral. They were like judges. They would sit back, people discuss their nonsense. It's just nonsense they discuss there, of course. It's a cultic organization. They even got a cultic church right inside their building there in Geneva. In fact, I was there. I stood outside it. I looked at the place and I got shivers, because I thought, wow, I can feel the evil in it. And we don't like the UN. But they are there, and they were created, of course, for a reason. Guess by who? Yeah. Fascinating how they control these things, eh? And do you also know that the UN Charter is 99% the old Soviet Union's constitution? You know that? By chance. There's nothing by chance, you know. It was President Roosevelt, FDR, who said there's nothing by chance in politics. Nothing. You might think it's by chance. Wow, just look at that. The Zelensky idiot and Trump actually meets up with at the Pope's funeral, and there they sit, and it's such a nice picture, and there at the Vatican, they find each other after a big fight. Oh, please. Really? You believe that? You believe this wasn't set up? Yeah, perhaps you should, you know. Perhaps you should. But anyway, we speak about this airport and how it looks like today. I've been there. The UN uses it now and then. Incredible waste of money. But that's the Congo for you, the sickness of the Congo. It's a country which should be fantastic, and it's not. And that's why I think the South African peacekeepers are now being withdrawn there after being surrounded or something. I don't really follow the news. I don't care. But on legacy conversations, we're going to speak about officers who's in charge of these peacekeeping operations so that we can understand more. Because a peacekeeping operation is not a war operation. It's not the same thing. You are not equipped with the same equipment. You have no heavy weapon support. Most of the times you will not have air support. And you definitely will not have lots of armor, things like that. You're there to keep peace. You're not there to fight a war. So basically, these people are there on, well, I would say on the graciousness of the enemy, which is why the Brits and the French and the Germans actually do go to Ukraine to, you know, support the Ukrainians in a demilitarized zone, and the Russians don't want them there. They will kill each of them. Yeah, that's why it probably will not happen, but let's see what happens, or what happened by the time we speak here. Because you can't really defend yourself. It's all about, you dare to attack me, and my big brother will come and hit you back. Yeah, well, it's not going to work with a warlord or with a person who's like really fed up with you, or who thinks it's important enough for him to attack you. That's not going to work. It's all bluff. It's all bullshit. That's all it is. These peacekeeping operations are nonsense, man. It just doesn't work. But the Rooivalk did very well there, by the way. It became feared in the Congo, very much so. But of course, there were casualties, and the moment there's casualties, people are very upset, very angry, and there should be. There's no reason for South Africa to be in the Congo, no reason whatsoever. You can understand them being in Mozambique because it's quite close. But if you read the GMJ books, you will also find a lot about what's happening in Mozambique right now. It's not normal jihadi terrorism, but we foresaw it. We saw it coming. It's once again, we warned about it, and of course no one listened. So anyway, we describe Versailles and what happened there, the one in the jungle. Very interesting. We talk a little bit about the rumble in the jungle. You know, that's a fight between George Foreman and Muhammad Ali. They took each other on in a boxing match, I think in 1974 or around about there. It was big news. It was then known as Zaire. Yeah, Zaire. And now it's back to the Congo. Yeah, it's a remorse. That country, you know what? It's just sad. Sad to see that. Beautiful people. No need for that type of thing. And yet, there you go. Just wanted to say about the UN and Katanga in the book Codenamed Dawn. You will see that after Doc Hammarskjöld died and he was not shot down, that's nonsense. The UN became more actively involved with sending their missions and blah, blah, blah. Since we were speaking about the Indian Air Force, they were there. They bombed hospitals in Katanga, the state of Katanga. Yes, Moise Chombi and these people. That's where they committed the nice and first war crimes. And John F. Kennedy, the US president, before he was murdered, he wanted to send a squadron of Phantoms, Phantom 2s in those days, very modern, to come and hunt down the Fuga trainers of the Katanga Air Force. Man, they would not even have been able to shoot them down because they were too quick. It never happened, by the way, but you know what? It's funny how life is, because you remember that that's that story when NATO attacked, I think Kosovo was somewhere there, and they bombed it right across for, I think, 76 days, even attacked the Chinese embassy. Yes, they had to apologize and pay out. Very much the same as what not happened when a US cruiser, I think it's a Carl Venices or something, St. Veneces, I don't know, but can't say the name. Anyway, it shot down an Iranian Boeing because it thought it was an F-14, shame. And then after many, many years of arguments and legal cases, they paid $65 million out. Yeah, the commander of a US warship who committed this mass murder, he was actually given a medal. Yeah. There's a reason why we hold you in contempt, you know. I cannot believe it if a South African warship actually downed a civilian liner, that the guy commanding will be given a medal. No, you'll be in jail, man. You'll be locked up. At least you will definitely not be promoted. You will never get a command again. And don't tell me we cannot down an airliner. Of course we can. Go and look at the frigates. They've got excellent, fantastically good missiles on them. But now we're back at the old argument. Oh, they're not sailing. Well, I've got pictures of them sailing. Yeah, in Kosovo, it's very fascinating what happened there. There was a whole bunch, I think, of F-16 pilots, and one of them actually in a later episode got shot down. And it was very big in the news because he was then rescued and he basically got out, and there was a good book written about it. But before that, he was also involved in an incident where they attacked, and I think they downed 4 training aircraft. But what they don't say there is that the F-16s really struggled to actually shoot them down. I mean, you would have thought it would have been a turkey shoot or something, you know, like in the Second World War at the Great Marianas Islands. But no, it wasn't like that at all. And that was the first warning that the US and Western missiles and things are not good enough. Really, it brings me back to what I said about the Russian Soviet missiles being so much better. Not a joke. That's actually what happened. And what's even worse than that is from that came what European Union countries, they designed something called the IRIS-T, which is an air-to-air missile, which we acquired. And then we decided the IRIS-T isn't that good. And that's where the Agile Darter comes from. It's in Codenamed Blue Tank. Now, with the Russian-Ukrainian war, these IRIS-Ts were actually deployed, and they failed miserably. But they're still much better than anything the Americans can field. Anyway, that is Snake 606. It's brand new. I haven't have a copy of it. I've ordered one, but it will take 2 months before it arrives here. As always, Rebecca did the edits, and Rebecca helped me with the design of a cover. It's available in audio, hardcover, softcover, It's about 340 pages. It wasn't a long book, but it's a fascinating book, especially when you want to know how good the Chinese intelligence really is, and how they operate in sub-Saharan Africa, and how they don't hesitate in bringing in the experts, and how they, man, I've worked with them, they're fantastic. And I must say, and this is also in the book, but the prettiest female agents you can find in the world, the most prettiest, the one most beautiful, is actually not the ones from the USA because they're all ugly and fat. They're not from Britain because they are all liberal lesbians. They're not the Russians, actually, even though the Russian spies are quite pretty. We can think of a few. But the best looking ones, if you like that type of woman now, would be from North Korea. So we also in the book on Button, which was the first one where we worked with Chinese intelligence the first time, and where Lucy's jacket were unbuttoned and bothering us so much. It was really drove us nuts with it. And just the other day, she said to me she was wearing it on a shooting range. I was training some special forces family members how to shoot, and it shows a lot that they actually asked her to do that. If you think about it, so she was wearing the same damn thing, and it had the same reaction by other people. Like, for God's sake, Lucy, just fix your jacket. We'll buy you a new one because everything is flapping around. Yeah, well, let's forget about Lucy's jacket because it's working me up again. Yeah. Um, I offered to buy her a new jacket. In fact, I did buy her a new jacket, but she likes that old NATO jacket of hers. Anyway, I'm just joking around here. The best looking female stars are actually from North Korea. In Codename on Button, we discussed the fate of a few of them, and how they are basically chosen from school days when they are trained, and then they are let loose in the world. Normally, they act against South Korea, but there are other places as well. And then there's the Chinese moms, who are fantastically good-looking women, and they're all over the place, and they are very well educated. All of them have master's degree and higher. All of them speak several languages, and they are just able to fit into the West, which the North Koreans suffer. They can't really do that. But they might. I think in the future they will make tours of duty to Russia and the rest of the BRICS nations, just to pick up more skills and a lot more skills. And then they will slowly start moving into the rest of the world. They are out there, they're very good, and very, very indoctrinated. The same with the Chinese. Well, all of them, at the end of the day, patriotism is a good thing. I think so. But it can, of course, be abused by the bastards in office, who's not patriots at all. All of them. They're just there to make money and to screw you from behind. And, of course, to follow the instructions from the Antichrist. That's all they do. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this book. As I said, it is available. Will be there another one? I don't know. I've written now, I've counted last night, about 67 books which I know about. There might be more which I forgot about. I don't write books for money. I don't write for fame. I write because I have a story and I wanted to tell you something. So if I feel the need, I will do that. If I don't feel the need, then so be it. And that's also good. But at the end of the day, Snake 606 is a great book. There's a lot of things happening in it. A lot of things which comes out, which I'm sure not many people know about. And of course, the Chinese spy networks are still out there. They are still operating, and they work very closely with their navy, who's around the ships, with their ships around the coast. You'll find that out in Snake 606 as well. And they have other skills which is astonishingly good, with SIGINT, with their satellites, things like that. You may ask, why is Sub-Saharan Africa important? Well, it's very important. For the West, and for us, it's important simply because that's where the jihadis ran to after being chased out of the Middle East, Pakistan. They came down here, read BF 0565, where we explain a bit more how we were picking them up and what happened further. And then from another viewpoint, of course, it's where all the minerals are and lots of cheap labor. So that means that it's extremely important to the Chinese anyway. That's why they're investing so heavily. And just to put that into perspective again, you might find the Chinese president coming to Africa 50, 60 times every 5 years. You never ever find a Western presidents ever coming. And if they come, it's a bloody circus and you should avoid them because they block out all the cell phone signals. They have this secret service there. Oh, shame. And they all try, but oh my word. You know, they are so compromised, it's just not funny. And really, I don't even know why they bother because nobody likes them. They come here, people screw in for money, but then they leave. Or they send their little lackeys, the secretaries of state, people like that. Same story. The other day I saw the Secretary of Defense of the US standing in Hawaii. And he's giving a speech there, and it was about this attack on Yemeni, the Houthis, which they leaked on Signal, a platform which was started by CIA funding money. Yeah. You think you're safe there? Oh man, you're not. It really depends who you want to listen to. If you use Telegram, then the French intelligence as well as the Russians will listen to you. If you use WhatsApp or Signal, the Americans will listen to you. Really, there's no such thing as the safe one. And then there's, of course, all these email service providers who say, no, they're based in Switzerland. Oh, they got the greatest privacy laws ever. Man, please. The Americans have access to that. Yes, they do. How do we know that? Read my books. I do provide a glimpse here and there. There was Swine actually started this secure communication company. They would sell these machines like the Enigma encoding machines. They would sell it to the third world. But the funding was given to them and their partners were the CIA. Yeah, the neutral Swiss, neutral swine. Doesn't exist, guys. There's nothing you do online which is kept secret. No such thing. The other day I was talking to somebody on WhatsApp. I can't even remember what we were talking about. But the next moment suddenly comes up the AI, which is on every single one of these things. Can't switch it off. And it's like, oh, that's not true. It's a bit misleading. And I was like, who are you? So I started using the most foul language I could get onto it. And it's like, oh, I can see you are so upset about that. Can I do something else? And I thought to myself, why am I even arguing with this flippin' robot? Why don't I just go and tip its throat off, or pull the plug on it or something? But of course you won't. That's how they spy on you. That's why the internet will never disappear. Yes, there will be in the future times when you won't have the internet. It will crash. It's going to happen. And then they will implement emergency rules, which will then be stretched way further to take your freedoms away. As is the still snot sickter, that illness I spoke about, which really killed what? Less than 1%? Yeah, less than 1%. We also deal in snake, by the way. We deal with the 1918 flu as well. And the death rates there were also about 1.4% at the most, depending where you were. In the illness which we talk about in Snake 606 is actually around about 40% or up to 80%. That's when you really need to worry. For the rest, please, nonsense, all it is. But those laws are still on the books. You want to know why those laws are on the books? You're going to find out. You're going to find out when they start using it against you. Conspiracy? Nah, it's going to happen. But the internet will be back on. Don't worry about that, because that's how they control you. That's how they can see what you're thinking, because you're stupid enough to post all your thoughts right on Facebook and wherever, or on X. You know what X means in your cult world? Guys, you need to ask questions. You really need. I hope that the MJ books will at least get you to start asking questions, to look at things and say, well, perhaps there's more happening than what I was aware of. Perhaps we should investigate this further. But anyway, good place to start is next 6:06. I have to run. The monsoon's still going outside. I have to check for leaks and pump a swimming pool dry. So God bless, and I hope to see you soon. Monsoon. No leaks. Wow, it's the first genuine monsoon rain. I'll have to empty the swimming pool just now. Yeah, you see all the water coming down there, and then it falls down here, and that's why it then goes out the pipes. All as designed, but that will finish the moment we have windows. That will not happen. But the rest of the floor is good. Look, it's dry. Completely dry. The only problem child is here, but that we can easily fix. Just one of those stickers somewhere up there. But all in all, this is not a dam anymore. Wow. Done very well, very well.
This is a bit of a disaster. All right, the poster is peeling off. That's not the problem. We don't care about that. If you look up at the ceiling, though, there is a problem there. It's missing the paneling. Things are kind of, yeah, that needs to be repaired, obviously. It's very wet. Yes. Well, you'll see why it's wet when we go outside. I don't know if you'll film on that side, but we've got a mini swimming pool up on the roof. But unfortunately, we can't charge people for it because they might get electrocuted. The bathroom is a disaster, man. I don't know what happened here. It wasn't this bad 3 years ago. I don't know. I don't know what happened here. No shower fixtures were in the shower. Toilets were just disgusting. No, it's just bleh. Cables hanging down because of the rain. This part I was not very confident. I just kind of crept in and I crept out because it doesn't look safe to me. Yeah, the drain is all clogged up. That's Akara's. There's the trees. They do go right next to her property. We'll have to take them down. Somebody could climb up them or climb down them. I guess those must have grown quite a bit in the last years. It's a shame because, of course, it provides shade and we like trees, but so it is. Now, on the ground here is full of water and, yeah, do you see it there? Oh, no, it doesn't look there. You can see that it's like a mini little puddle there. So obviously that's going to leak in. Not cool. coming back through, going over to the other side. That toilets are horrible. And then that chair has been out there forever. But look at this. This is a lake out here. I mean, you don't want to walk out there. You hear buzzing electricity, and this blue container on the right has no lid. So obviously, I mean, look at that water on there. Of course, the roof's not going to be able to take that. I was trying to see if there was somehow a drain or something, but I couldn't find it. I mean, I didn't walk out in it either. There's the missing lid on that blue container, and Coos didn't go out there either because it is sounding like electricity out there. And there's a lot of water, so yeah, not a great mixture. All right.
Yeah, you see all the water coming down there, and then it falls down here, and that's why it then goes out in the pipes. All as designed, but that will finish the moment we have windows. That will not happen. But the rest of the floor is good. Look, it's dry. Completely dry. The only problem child is here, but that we can easily fix. Just one of those stickers somewhere up there. But all in all, this is not a dam anymore. Wow. Done very well, very well. And it's nice and cool up here too. Yeah, so I wanted to go to Mastro, and then I had to turn around. Look at this. Just look at this. And the worst is still to come. Yeah, monsoon is here. But luckily it's going through. It's not picking up at us. I'll go to the other side just now. Completely filled up. Look at the market. And yeah, I was not willing to drive through, so I stopped. I came back, went back, what do you call it? There you go. Wow, look at it, it's half a meter deep. Look at that blue car. Yo, yo, yo. This is... Oi, man. Oi. Yeah, if you have a big four-wheel drive car, I think you can go through, but right now, I stay at home. Oh. Nice of this guy to show people where to go, huh? Market is totally overflowing. You see. You're missing the fun, honey. Come home. What that idiot. You see, he can't go through there. Okay, here we go on the market. That guy's trapped. Oh, shame, man. Shame, shame. But here it goes down. There's the sluice guys trying to remove. They better open those sluices, otherwise big trouble. If it is open, you can hear the water, you can hear it thundering. So there it goes out into the ocean. So this is nothing I've seen in Phuket before. This bridge better not break because then I'm dead. Let me rather get off. So there we are. Very wise too. They're waiting. Thank you. There's nothing coming from there. Yeah, we're back at this end of the river. Yeah. Shouldn't be looking like that. The Matsi people are concerned. They should be. Let me go and look if we need to be concerned. We very well should be. Not good, not good. Well, We're good, yeah. Anyway, that's why we need this wall a bit higher on. We need it to go up to about here, I would say, where my hand is, so that we don't get drowned out here or something. Let's see what's happening at the back. A bit of water leakage, of course. There's a hole in this one here, which I told Sue about. There too, you can see the water, but that's not serious. If you think of the amount of water which came down, you walk through the restaurant, and you have to go look at the river. I'm pumping the swimming pool empty because it filled up with 3 inches in an hour. So the pond is being pumped out. Here's our car. I had to turn around. Here goes the river. Yeah, it's full. It's full. There runs a little one of your friends. You can see water of the swimming pool pumping out from the roofs. Here's the actual river coming down. And, yeah. And here's our fountains, our fountains going down out there. Wow, it was raining. This is a massive amount of water on. And the monsoon just started. So we're going to see a lot more of this. A lot more. Anyway, our drainage holes, our fountains are working very well. No problem. Just walking here in the water. But it's really close. I mean, look at it. It's basically less than 15 centimeters before this is full. So I hope everything can go out and not start overflowing here with us, which is why we have insurance. But yeah, this was... Yeah. Anyway, all good. I'll report back later. Love you.